I-27M, found out last week that my GF-26F of 11 years was cheating on me with a guy from work whilst I was away traveling for 3 months. She wants to meet and chat to give me some more information because I do not know much. Is there any chance I find some closure from talking to her? The notification hit at 2:47 p.m. and my stomach knew before my brain did. 11 years together, 3 months traveling, and one message preview on my laptop that didn't belong to me. It wasn't even dramatic at first. No lipstick, no hotel keycard, just a Slack notification that popped up because she'd left her work account logged in on our shared MacBook. Can't wait until he's gone again, from a guy saved as J Operations. And then the line that made my hands go cold, "Last night in your bed was insane." I didn't breathe for a second. I swear time slowed down like my body was trying to protect me from what my eyes had already read. Her name is Chloe, 26F. Mine is Eli, 27M. We'd been together since we were teenagers, high school sweethearts, first apartment, first real jobs, first talks about marriage. I was the guy who kept the receipts, who remembered birthdays, who said, "We'll figure it out" when life got heavy. And she was the person I believed would never be the reason my world collapsed. But in that moment, staring at that message at 2:47 p.m., I realized something that felt like swallowing glass. I didn't just get cheated on, I got replaced. In real time, in my own home. While I was building memories, I thought I'd come back to share with her, and now she wanted to meet, to talk, and give more information. Closure. That word sounded so peaceful, so adult, so reasonable, but I didn't know yet that the meeting she was asking for wasn't about giving me closure. It was about taking hers. Chloe and I started dating when I was 16 and she was 15. We were the cliche couple teachers teased, always sitting too close, always laughing at each other's jokes, even when they weren't funny. By the time we were 21, we were living together in a 2-bedroom apartment in Bristol, splitting rent, making pasta at midnight, arguing about laundry like it was a personality trait. People don't talk enough about long relationships that start young. You don't just grow up together, you build a shared language, inside jokes, habits, a rhythm. Chloe would steal my hoodies and claim they were better quality when they're stolen. I'd make her tea exactly the way she liked, 2 sugars, too much milk, because I liked the way her shoulders relaxed after the first sip. She used to say, "We're boring, but in the best way." And maybe we were, but I liked boring. Boring meant safe. Last year, I finally did something I'd promised myself I'd do before turning 30. I took a 3-month trip. It wasn't a find myself thing. It was something I'd saved for. Hostels, trains, cheap flights, long walks in cities where no one knew me. The kind of trip you take when you want to prove to yourself that you can be your own person and still come home to the person you love. Chloe supported it. At least, she said she did. "You deserve it," she told me in our kitchen at 11:18 p.m., the night before I left. She had her arms around my waist and her cheek pressed against my chest like she was memorizing my shape. "Just don't forget me," she joked. I kissed her hair. Impossible. The first month away, everything felt normal. She sent me selfies from work, pictures of her lunch, random memes. She'd voice note me at night, half asleep, telling me about her day. Then sometime around week 6, her messages got shorter. Not cold, just less. Like she was busy, like life was happening. I noticed, but I didn't accuse. I didn't want to be that guy. I told myself she was stressed at work. I told myself distance can make people weird. I told myself love isn't measured in message frequency. When I came back, it was Sunday, 9:33 p.m. Suitcase in one hand, keys in the other. Chloe hugged me, but it felt delayed, like she remembered the movement rather than felt it. "You smell like airports," she said, laughing, but her eyes weren't laughing. I ignored the tiny sting. That night, she went to bed early, said she had a headache. I laid next to her and stared at the ceiling, telling myself I was overthinking, that I was tired. That jet lag makes you suspicious. 3 days later, I was working from home. My laptop had died, so I opened our shared MacBook, the one we used for streaming and Random Life admin. That's when the Slack notification popped up at 2:47 p.m. I shouldn't have clicked it. But once you see the word bed, you don't get to pretend it's none of your business. I clicked. The chat thread opened like a trapdoor. There were messages stretching back weeks, flirty jokes, late-night you up texts, photos I didn't want to identify as photos but did anyway. And then the part that crushed me wasn't even sexual. It was emotional. "I haven't laughed like this in years." From Chloe to him. I sat there in our living room, hearing the fridge hum, hearing my own breathing, and feeling like a stranger in my own life. When she got home at 6:12 p.m., she walked in singing softly until she saw my face. "What's wrong?" she asked automatically. I turned the laptop toward her. My voice came out quiet. "Who is J Operations?" Her face did that thing people's faces do when they realize the lie has already been caught. Eyes widening, skin draining, mouth opening without sound. "Eli, she started. "Don't," I said, and I hated how calm I sounded, like my body had decided to freeze so my heart didn't shatter audibly. She sank onto the sofa. "It was a mistake." "A mistake," I repeated. "For 3 months." She shook her head fast. "It didn't start like that. It was just work stuff. Then you were away and I felt lonely and you put him in our bed," I said. She flinched. "I didn't mean to hurt you." That sentence, the classic, as if betrayal is an accident that happens to you, not something you choose. I stood up. My legs felt too light. "Was it only him?" I asked. She hesitated. That hesitation was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. I grabbed my jacket and left. I walked for an hour without knowing where I was going. My phone buzzed with her messages, one after another. "Please, come back. Let me explain." And then the next day, she sent the message that made me realize she still thought she had control of the narrative. "Can we meet and talk? I'll give you more information. I think it will help you get closure." Closure. I didn't know much yet, she said. Like the pain I already had wasn't enough, like I needed the details to suffer properly. But the truth was, part of me did want to meet, because my brain kept looping one question like it was stuck on repeat. Why wasn't I enough? And that's exactly what made me dangerous, because I wasn't just heartbroken anymore, I was awake. The first night after I left, I slept at my friend Mason's place. Mason is the kind of friend who doesn't ask too many questions when you show up looking hollow. He handed me a beer, threw a blanket on the couch, and sat nearby like a guard dog. "Want to talk?" he asked. "Not yet," I said, because if I opened my mouth, I wasn't sure what would come out. The next morning, though, something changed. Not healed, not better, just focused. I opened my notes app and started writing down facts, dates, times, anything I could remember, because the thing about betrayal is this: it makes you feel crazy. It makes you question your own memory. It makes you want to call your past self stupid for missing signs. So I decided I wouldn't let my emotions be my only evidence. I went back to the apartment while Chloe was at work. I told her I needed clothes. She didn't argue. She probably thought compliance meant I was softening. I walked in at 9:08 a.m. and the place smelled like her perfume and something else, someone else, faint and sharp. I didn't rage. I didn't smash anything. I opened drawers. I checked cabinets. I looked for the things you only notice when you're forced to see. In the bathroom bin under tissues, I found a receipt from a restaurant I'd never been to with Chloe. The date, April 16th. Time, 9:54 p.m. 2 cocktails, 2 mains, and a handwritten note at the bottom from the server: "Happy anniversary." Our anniversary is in October. My stomach turned, but my hands didn't tremble. Something crystallized inside me. I kept going. In the closet, on the top shelf, was a small gift bag. Inside was a men's cologne, expensive, not mine, and a card. "To the man who made this year bearable." No name, but I didn't need one. I photographed everything, time-stamped, clear. Then I checked our shared finances. Chloe and I weren't married, but we shared bills, shared streaming accounts, shared groceries, shared the quiet assumption that what's mine is ours. I pulled up the bank app. There were charges that weren't normal. Hotel bars, ride shares late at night, a boutique lingerie store she'd never shopped at before. I texted her once, only once. Me. "How long?" She replied 10 minutes later. "Chloe, can we talk in person? I don't want to do this over text." Of course she didn't. Text leaves a record. That's when Mason said something that anchored me. "Bro," he told me, "she wants to meet so she can manage your reaction. If you meet, you do it on your terms." On your terms. I repeated it in my head like a mantra. Then, unexpectedly, the ally I didn't know I'd need arrived through a message request on Instagram. A guy named Leah was the first profile I saw in the mutuals list under Chloe's coworker photos. I clicked around, followed tags, and finally found the man himself. Jordan Vance, operations analyst, the guy saved as J Operations. His profile was private, but his bio was public. And in it, husband to Rachel, dad to Theo. My pulse thudded hard. Husband, dad. So Chloe didn't just cheat. She became the kind of person who helps someone destroy a family. I found Rachel through tagged photos. She looked normal. Tired smile, holding a toddler with curly hair, a woman living a life she probably believed was stable. I stared at her profile picture for a long time. Then I messaged her. I kept it simple, no insults, no drama. Me. Hi Rachel, I'm sorry to message you like this. I'm Eli. I believe my girlfriend Chloe has been involved with your husband Jordan. I have evidence. If you want it, I'll share it. She didn't reply for hours. I kept working on my own evidence anyway because waiting makes you spiral. I requested my own travel records, screenshots of my flight dates, because I knew what Chloe would say. I was lonely while you were away. I wanted to be able to say calmly, I was away building my life. You were home dismantling it. At 10:41 p.m., Rachel finally replied. Rachel, call me. When I called, her voice was tight and controlled, like she was holding herself together with her teeth. How sure are you? She asked. I told her about the Slack messages, the restaurant receipt, the hotel charges, the timeline, silence. Then she whispered, he told me he was working late. I closed my eyes. The thing about betrayal, I said quietly, is they all use the same script. Rachel exhaled shakily. I need proof. I'll send what I have, I said, but I'm not sending revenge porn or anything like that, just proof of the relationship. Please, she said, voice cracking. Please send it. I did. And that's when the deeper pattern started showing itself. Rachel called me back the next day, voice sharp now, anger replacing shock. He's been using a second credit card, she said, a card I didn't know about. He's been taking cash out too, and Eli, he used money from our son's savings account to cover a hotel. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just cheating, this was financial betrayal. Rachel and I talked for 2 hours comparing dates. We realized the affair wasn't just during my travel. It had started before I left. At least 8 months, possibly longer. The travel period wasn't the cause, it was the opportunity. And Chloe wanting to meet and give more information. That wasn't about closure, that was about controlling what I knew before I heard it from someone else. Rachel said it first. She's going to blame you, Rachel told me, or she's going to minimize it, or she's going to confess just enough to seem honest. I swallowed hard. What do we do? Rachel's voice turned steady, like someone who'd made a decision. We do this clean, she said. No screaming, no threats, just facts. And then she added the sentence that changed everything. Jordan's company has a strict workplace relationship policy, especially for affairs involving a subordinate, and he's up for a promotion. I sat back, heart pounding. Professional consequences, a lever, not to ruin anyone out of cruelty, but to make sure the truth had weight. Because people like Jordan and Chloe don't care about broken hearts. They care about reputations. Rachel and I planned carefully. We weren't going to blast social media. We weren't going to do anything illegal. We were going to let their own choices speak for themselves, publicly and in the places they'd lied the most. And then finally, I agreed to meet Chloe, but not for her, for me, because I wasn't going to walk into that conversation blind. I was going to walk in with my eyes open and my evidence organized, and she was going to realize something she hadn't considered. I wasn't the same Eli she thought she could talk in circles. We chose a public place for the meeting, not because I wanted drama, because I wanted witnesses, not to record, not to shame, but to prevent her from rewriting what happened later. Chloe suggested our old cafe, sentimental, familiar. I suggested Harbor and Grain, a busy spot near the office district, glass windows. Too many people to raise your voice without drawing attention. We agreed on Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. I arrived at 6:22 and sat where I could see the entrance. My heart was beating fast, but my hands didn't shake. I had a folder in my backpack. Screenshots, receipts, timelines. Rachel had her own packet. We'd agreed we wouldn't team up in the same room. That could turn it into a scene. But we would coordinate in phases. Phase 1, let Chloe talk. Phase 2, ask direct questions. Phase 3, present proof when she lies. Phase 4, consequences professionally and socially through proper channels. Chloe walked in at 6:31 wearing the coat I bought her last winter. That detail shouldn't matter, but it did. She saw me and smiled like she was relieved, like this was going to be manageable. She sat down and reached across the table like she wanted to touch my hand. I pulled my hand back gently. Her smile faltered. Eli, she whispered, eyes glossy. I'm so sorry. I nodded once. Talk. She blinked. That's it? Yes, I said calmly. You wanted to meet, so talk. Chloe took a breath like she was about to perform. It started when you left, she said quickly. I was lonely and stressed at work, and Jordan was there. He listened. I stared at her, letting the silence stretch until it got uncomfortable. Are you done? I asked. She frowned. What do you mean? Because that's not true, I said, voice even. Her eyes widened. Eli. I opened my backpack and pulled out one photograph, the receipt from April 16th. I slid it across the table. This is from before I left, I said. Happy anniversary, Chloe? Her face drained. I don't know what that is, she stammered. I nodded. Okay, let's try this again. When did it start? Chloe swallowed hard. Fine, a few weeks before, but it wasn't serious. Was he married? I asked. Her lips parted. She hesitated. I leaned forward slightly. Yes or no? Yes, she said, voice small. Did you know he had a child? I asked. Yes, she whispered. There it was. The truth, stripped of excuses. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just asked questions like a surgeon cutting out rot. How many times? I asked. Chloe shook her head. I don't know. You know, I said quietly. How many? She stared down at her coffee like it could save her. Maybe 10? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insulting. I opened my phone and pulled up the Slack timestamps. Chloe, I said, you messaged him 47 times in 1 week. You think you only slept with him 10 times? She flinched like I'd slapped her. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Because you asked if talking would give me closure, I said, and closure requires truth. She started crying then, real crying. I hate myself, she sobbed. I don't know why I did it. I watched her cry and felt something strange. Not satisfaction, not pity, distance, because the person crying in front of me wasn't the person I'd been with for 11 years. She was someone else, someone who'd already made her choices and now wanted relief from the consequences. She wiped her face. Are you going to tell people? I already told one person, I said. Her head snapped up. Who? His wife, I said calmly. Chloe's eyes went huge. You can't. I can, I said, and I did. Her breathing turned panicked. Eli, please, that will destroy his family. I stared at her, stunned by the audacity. You helped destroy his family, I said quietly. I just told the truth. Chloe reached for her phone. I need to call him. I held up my hand. Don't, not here. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. You're being cruel, she whispered. I shook my head. No, I'm being accurate. She tried a different angle. What about us? She asked, voice trembling. 11 years. Don't I deserve a chance to explain? I sat back and said the sentence I'd practiced in my head all week. You don't need to explain, I said. You need to accept. Chloe's face twisted with anger under the tears. So that's it, she snapped. You're just throwing me away? Throwing you away. Like I was disposing of trash, not refusing to keep poison. I kept my voice calm. You threw us away when you chose him, I said. I'm just not pretending anymore. She leaned forward, eyes sharp now. You were gone for 3 months, she said, voice rising. You left me alone. There it was, the blame shift. I nodded slowly. I took a trip we talked about for 2 years. You told me to go. You kissed me goodbye. She looked away. I didn't make you cheat, I said. You did. Chloe swallowed hard. He said he'd leave her. I almost laughed again. He said, I repeated, so you believed a married man who was sleeping with you at work. She wiped her cheeks, voice defensive. It felt real. That's the problem, I said. Well, you wanted it to feel real more than you wanted our real life. Chloe's phone buzzed. Her face went white as she looked at the screen. I didn't need to see the name to know. Jordan. She stared at the phone like it was a bomb. Then she whispered, What did you do? I leaned forward. I told the truth, I said, and now truth is moving faster than your lies. She stood up abruptly, chair scraping loud enough that people looked. Eli, please, she hissed, lowering her voice. Don't do anything else. I stood too, calm, and zipped my backpack. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. I'm stepping away, Chloe's voice broke. I loved you. I looked at her for a long moment, then said the only honest thing I could. I believe you loved what I gave you, I said softly, but love doesn't look like this, and I walked out. Outside, the air felt colder, cleaner. My phone buzzed, a message from Rachel. Rachel. He admitted it. He's begging. I'm meeting HR tomorrow. My stomach dropped, not from fear, but from the weight of consequence arriving. This wasn't revenge in the messy, dramatic way people fantasize about. This was accountability. A slow tightening noose made of evidence, policy, and truth. And Chloe? She still hadn't realized the biggest part, because I wasn't just leaving her emotionally, I was untangling my entire life from hers, financially, socially, legally. And when that started, she panicked. The next day, she showed up at my workplace. At 12:18 p.m., I walked out for lunch and found her standing by the entrance, eyes red, mascara smudged, looking like a character in a sad movie. My coworkers saw her, people stared. This was her second attempt at control, public pressure. "Eli," she pleaded, grabbing my arm. I gently pulled away. "Don't touch me." She flinched, then whispered, "Jordan's wife is going to ruin him. They're investigating at work. He thinks I did it." I blinked. "You mean he thinks you told his wife?" Chloe nodded, frantic. "He's furious. He's saying I used him. He's calling me names." I stared at her, the irony almost too much to hold. "The married man who cheated on his wife with you is now calling you names," I said slowly. Shocking. Chloe's face crumpled. "I didn't think it would get this bad," she whispered. I said nothing for a moment, then answered honestly, "It was always this bad," I said. "You just couldn't see it because you weren't the one being betrayed." And then I walked past her into the sunlight, leaving her standing there with consequences she'd helped create. But the story wasn't over, because Jordan wasn't just going to accept accountability quietly, and Chloe wasn't going to accept losing the safety net she'd taken for granted. They both had one more move, and that's when I played my trump card. 2 days later, Chloe texted me at 9:06 p.m. "Chloe, we need to talk again. Please, there's something you don't know." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, block her, erase her, but another part, the part that had learned not to underestimate people when cornered, felt the warning. So I agreed. One last meeting, public place, short time. We met at a hotel lobby cafe, neutral territory. The Linden Hotel, 7 o'clock p.m. on Sunday. She arrived early, twisting her hands, looking smaller than she used to. "I'm not here to beg," she said immediately. I sat down. "Good, because I'm not here to forgive." Chloe swallowed. "Jordan, he's trying to blame everything on me." I nodded. "Of course. He told HR it was mutual, but he also said I pursued him," she whispered. My jaw tightened. "You did pursue him." Her eyes flashed with pain. "Yes, but he's acting like I forced him, like I was some mistake." I leaned back, watching her carefully. "And me," I said. Chloe took a shaky breath. "He's scared because he used company travel expenses for some of it." I went still. "What do you mean?" She looked around like she was afraid someone would hear. "He booked hotels under work trips," she whispered. "He used the company card sometimes. He told me it was fine." A coldness spread through my chest. "Financial fraud, not just cheating." Chloe's voice shook. "Eli, they're going to investigate him, and he said if he goes down, he'll take me down too." I stared at her. This is what people don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart. It reveals who people really are when consequences show up. Chloe had been willing to hurt me, but she wasn't willing to be hurt herself. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She whispered, "I want you to tell Rachel to stop, to not report the company card part." I actually laughed then, one short, stunned laugh. "You want me," I said slowly, "to protect the man you cheated with from consequences so he won't expose you." Chloe's eyes filled again. "Please, I'm scared." I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I just looked at her with a calm she didn't deserve and said, "This is the first honest consequence you've faced," I said, "and you're asking me to carry it for you." She shook her head. "I didn't mean—" I raised a hand. "Stop." She froze. I reached into my bag and pulled out a document, something she wasn't expecting. A simple printed page from my solicitor. The notice that I'd terminated our shared lease agreement and removed my name from the next renewal. The date at the top was clear. Chloe stared at it, confused. "What is that?" "It's me leaving," I said. "Properly, legally, financially." Her face went pale. "You can't just—" she started. "I can," I said, "and I have." Her eyes widened with sudden panic. "Where am I supposed to go?" I shrugged gently. "Maybe Jordan can help." "Since he was there for you." Chloe flinched like I'd punched her. That was the big reveal for her. She wasn't losing my love. She was losing my stability. And then I delivered the trump card she never knew existed. Not wealth, not some secret inheritance, but something that mattered just as much. I wasn't dependent on her life anymore. Because while we were together, I'd quietly built a side business, freelance consulting, remote work. The trip I took, part of it was scouting clients, networking, building a future she never asked about because she assumed it would always include her. "I'm moving out," I said calmly. "And I'm not negotiating." Chloe's voice broke. "After 11 years?" I nodded. "After 11 years." She leaned forward, desperation turning sharp. "So you're going to ruin my life?" I met her eyes. "I'm not ruining your life," I said. "I'm refusing to keep funding it." Chloe started to sob, loud enough that a couple at the next table glanced over. I stood up, slow. "Tell Jordan whatever you want," I said. "Tell people I'm cruel. Tell people I abandoned you. I don't care." She grabbed my sleeve. "Eli, please." I gently removed her hand. "For the first time in years," I said softly, "I'm choosing my peace over your chaos." And I walked out of the lobby, leaving her crying into a cup of untouched coffee. Behind me, her world was collapsing, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. First, Rachel filed the HR complaint. She didn't do it to be petty. She did it because she needed control over her own reality again. Jordan was placed on leave within a week. Chloe texted me furious paragraphs about how I'd destroyed everything, as if everything hadn't been destroyed the moment she chose to betray me. I never replied. Then the social circle shifted. Mutual friends started asking questions. Some tried to stay neutral. Some took sides without knowing facts. I didn't launch a smear campaign. I didn't post cryptic quotes. I didn't expose her publicly. I told the truth only when asked, calmly and without added drama. "She cheated while I was away," I'd say. "I found proof. That's it." The people who mattered believed me. The ones who didn't weren't mine to keep. Immediate consequences weren't cinematic. They were quiet and heavy. Chloe had to explain why the relationship ended after 11 years. Jordan had to explain why his work trips didn't match expense reports. Rachel had to decide what kind of life she wanted after the truth, and I had to learn how to wake up without the person I'd planned my future around. The first month was the hardest, not because I missed Chloe, but because my brain kept searching for the old routine like a missing limb. I'd reach for my phone to tell her something funny, then remember, I'd see a couple holding hands and feel that sharp, sudden grief. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just take a person from you, it takes the version of your future you were living in. But slowly, the shock turned into something else. Space. I moved into a small studio for a while, bare walls, cheap furniture, silence that felt too loud at first. Then it started to feel like breathing room. I traveled again, but not to run away, just to remember that my life belonged to me. I started training at a local gym, not for revenge body nonsense, but because my anger needed somewhere to go that wouldn't poison me. And then 6 months later, life looked different. 6-month epilogue. It was Tuesday, 6:18 a.m., and I was making coffee in my new place, bigger now, brighter, mine. I'd taken on a major contract through my side business and turned it into a full-time thing. Not millionaire money, but real stability, real independence. Rachel messaged me once unexpectedly. "Rachel, I left him." No extra details, just that. I stared at the message for a long time and felt something like respect. Because leaving isn't dramatic. Leaving is hard, quiet, brave. As for Chloe, I heard through mutual friends that Jordan cut her off the moment his marriage and career were on the line. The affair that felt real when it was secret didn't feel so real when it came with consequences. And Chloe had to sit with the fact that she didn't lose me because I was cruel. She lost me because she wasn't loyal. I didn't celebrate her pain. I didn't need to. Because the best revenge wasn't watching her suffer. It was watching myself heal. So to answer the question you asked at the top, can you find closure by talking to her? Maybe. But here's the truth I learned the hard way. Closure doesn't come from the person who broke you, because they'll always tell the story in a way that protects them. Closure comes when you stop needing their version of events to validate your pain. The thing about betrayal is, it teaches you what you will and won't tolerate. And once you learn that, you don't beg for honesty. You build a life where dishonesty can't live. 6 months later, watching the sun rise through my own window, I realized something simple. I didn't lose the love of my life. I lost someone who was willing to risk everything we built for a moment of attention, and that loss eventually started to feel like protection.